Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business Different Day podcast. I am your host, Zeke Corley, and I want to introduce Alyssa Lee Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm really excited about this episode.
Yeah, this is a special episode for you.
One of my favorite
especially. It's near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
It's the day before New Year's, so anybody listening, we want you guys to understand that we're partying. We're having a good time, and you might not hear it until mid-January, and maybe things are a little different for you at that point. But at this point, currently, it's the day before New Year's Eve, and we're having a ball. So, that's our excuse. Paige is our first guest that I want to introduce. She sent me, well, first of all, thank you for, making your way down the hallway,
No.
Rest your legs.
Yeah.
I know it was a long walk. Yeah. But a great spirit, an infectious smile and laugh that has finally made its way outside of a mask. So we're happy to have you here. You've also let us in on your second favorite podcast, because we know this one's your favorite. Mm-hmm. But you let us in on that, and because of that, we might even have a little fun kind of pretending to be that other podcast here and there throughout this episode. We're going to have a little fun. So, and also, Paige brought with her our second guest, who is a gentleman that I've only got a pleasure to meet today. And most of what I know about him, I shouldn't say before the reveal. So let's wait for the reveal. And meanwhile, we want to welcome Paige McWey-Acers and Kris Anacleto to the podcast.
Welcome.
Standing ovation. I like that.
Yeah. Did I pronounce that right, Kris?
It's actually Anacleto, but
Anacleto.
You said it the way 99% of people do.
Man, I hate being like other people.
It's all good. It's a fair assumption.
Alyssa, would you please explain the reveal? We do have rules here.
Yes. So our big reveal, this podcast, Same Business, Different Day, we're going to talk about what you do, your normal day lives. But first, we want to get to know both of you. We're going to talk about childhood, growing up, where you came from, what you were influenced by. And then at some point when it feels right, we'll do our big reveal and talk about what you actually do.
Perfect.
Where'd you grow up, Kris?
Yep. I grew up half a mile from where we're sitting right now.
Nice.
Is that right?
Yep. Grew up in Vista. Well, I was born in Boston, but I've lived here since I was 3.5 in Vista, California. So, grew up the street, and I've been a Vista local the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah.
You too, huh, Paige?
Same.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't born in Boston, but
Yeah.
born and raised in Vista. So my parents still live in the same house that they brought me home to when I was born.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. You have early memories. You remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
How young did that start?
I think about second grade.
Mm-hmm.
I did a trip out to Williamsburg, Virginia, and saw like a Thomas Jefferson impersonator, and was like really moved by that, and just like the colonial aspect. And he was
An impersonator?
Yeah. Well,
really? So if you were like just been
Well,
walking down Vegas,
I didn't see the real Thomas.
if you were just but still, yeah. But if you were like in Vegas and you saw an Elvis impersonator, would you have?
No, there was just something about, I don't know. I think we went to like a mock trial, and he was the attorney. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then we ended up going to Monticello and fell in love with his home and how beautiful it was. And I'm like, and then he was involved in education. And I'm like, yeah, like this guy rules.
That's cool.
So
That's cool.
that's kind of it.
How about you, Kris? You remember what you wanted to be?
Yeah, nothing like that. It actually has always surprised me when I hear people when they were kids saying, I want to be the president or a lawyer or a cop or a fighter. Like, none of that ever even remotely crossed my mind.
Why?
I don't know. I guess as a child, it just seemed like work. I don't know. I mean,
I respect that.
it's kind of a.
There's a lot to do.
There wasn't anything really that enticing about it as a child. I mean, I get it a little bit as you get older when you have to start thinking about careers, but they didn't seem fun at all.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, I actually wanted to be like a cartoonist or an artist of some sort.
Okay.
I remember in like 5th grade, getting like a how to make cartoons book with a friend, and that was like the first time I was like, this is what I want to do along those lines. But it's never a cartoonist. I did do a lot of stuff. Well, I still do to a degree, I guess, about art.
No, you're good. Nothing's been revealed.
Yeah. I don't want.
The pressure is on.
What can I say?
Ironically, that was probably misleading on my
So
part.
it very much was now.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a cartoonist.
That's cool.
I'll give that, or
Yeah.
a comic book
But
artist.
you want to inspire that, right, Paige? You've got young ones. Like, you want to inspire their artistic flair, like their creativity and everything. And for a child to say that, I mean, sure. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but back in my day, a parent might kind of push that down because you're not going to make any money doing that.
Right.
Give me an actual career that you want to do, right? And so it was kind of like, me, I always said I wanted to be a doctor. And I'm not sure I ever believed it. I just always said it, and because everybody around me, they just applaud. They would just be so happy, oh, he wants to be a doctor. This is going to be great. We're going to finally have a doctor in our family. I don't think I ever really believed that I wanted to be a doctor. Do you remember what you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
Yeah. I love animals. Yeah. So, but that didn't happen.
No.
Not even close. But that's okay. I like what I do.
You still play with a lot of animals.
I do, just not professionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody professionally play with animals?
I should hope so.
Well, I'm going to tell you the story about Siegfried and Roy later.
Oh, true. Yeah. Diamond in the rough right there.
There's a little tragedy in there, but we'll keep that off air. Did that change, Paige, as you got older, though, the ideas about, being an attorney,
No.
You really kind of focused on that kind of throughout.
I focused on that. In college, I focused on sociology and just like understanding people. And then during that time, my brother had gone to law school, and I visited him at Villanova on the East Coast and was still inspired to go. But then he got out of law school with a ton of debt that I was not inspired by. But I still went to paralegal school because I wanted to see if that was something that I wanted to pursue. See if I still wanted to be somehow involved in law before I put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that education. So,
but that lasted a long time for you. That thought of maybe that's a long time to want to be something.
Yeah, and then not.
Well, but at least you tried.
Yeah.
How about you, Kris? Like graffiti writing on the trains or anything like that? I come from hip hop, so I'm okay with it. If you were doing that, a little skateboard. You told me you were skateboarding. Did you design or anything like that?
I did. Skateboarding kind of came into my life in middle school. Got pretty immersed in it, and art classes in high school. One of the 3 college classes I ever took was an art class. Nice. Video classes. So I did a lot of stuff within skateboarding, just between friends and everything. Skateboard videos, all of that. So I kind of stayed the route for a while with what I was into once I hit 5th grade or whatever.
Do you have mentors in your lives, like folks that actually put you on a path towards business or anything that you're doing today?
Yeah, my parents, I guess. My mom managed a restaurant for first 25 years of my life and out over in Carlsbad, and my dad was a wine salesman on the East Coast. So I did get a lot of, I think, business sense from them and work ethic and whatnot. Not that I do anything specifically to what they do, but watching how they conduct themselves at a young age, I think I got a lot of that. Had nothing to do with the art world, of course. But,
sure.
Yeah.
But didn't you take that on into like business?
Yeah.
During school, or did you?
Yeah.
Train
So
or learn any of that?
I didn't really go to college.
Okay.
I took a few classes over a span of time.
Same here.
For stuff that I was interested.
Yeah.
I went to appease my mom for a semester.
Doesn't mean you can't be successful.
Yeah. No. I just actually knew in high school that I wasn't going to go to college. My senior year, and I had a lot of people who were really concerned for me. I almost went to a film school I got accepted and everything, and then I decided that was kind of a not right move for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just said, I'm not going to go. And people were like, well, if you don't know what you're going to do, why wouldn't you go to community college? And I knew I didn't want to take math and English, and it would be cool. And I took some classes that appealed to me. And I think there's a lot of potential in college, especially when you can take those kind of classes. But I didn't want to start from what I would have had to have done was bare minimum math, bare minimum English, and then like build up from it. You know, some people test in the highest math and they have to take one math class and they're done. Mm-hmm. I was the opposite.
Yeah. So. But they weren't completely wrong, the folks that we're talking to, because
they weren't wrong at all.
Because, for the folks that don't have a path, you could go to college and kind of get a better idea of, where to go, right? Or what you might do.
Well, especially community college. If you don't have anything going on, why wouldn't you go to community college? It's like, it's fairly inexpensive. And it helps guide you to a degree. And I've always been a pretty stubborn person, and it's not my best quality. But especially when I was like 18 and I was like the first of my friends to move out and get an apartment, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna go to school. Yeah, I'm gonna work and live on my own and skateboard. And I mean, I'm glad I did it that way, but I know that doesn't work for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Paige?
I would have to say my parents too, and I have a professional mentor, but that would be revealing.
We can't all have a professional mentor, but we're happy to be in the presence of Paige. Can I get the phone?
No, I just meant like professionally. I have someone
I get it.
in the industry that I work in.
Do I know who that is?
You know who that person is?
Yeah, I can't guess who that would be, but it'll
I'll
be a reveal for me as well.
But my parents were super, super supportive. When I went into college, I went to San Diego State, and I went in trying to get a international business degree because I thought I needed a degree like that to have a career and to eventually go into law. And after one semester, I was like, this is really difficult. I'm not enjoying being in school whatsoever under this degree. And I remember going to my parents and just being like, this is really hard, and crying. And they were like, do what you need to do. Like they've always just been super supportive. Awesome. And I found it, and I was a sociology major and also then became a religious studies major. And it was more, I think they knew, like, even though I tried to convince them that I could get jobs with those majors, they were just like, okay, if that's what makes you happy, like you'll figure it out. But my thing was I wanted to go to school to, not so I could necessarily have a career, but become more educated and be, leave with experiences and knowledge that I wouldn't be able to be taught in necessarily without that type of experience. So, and they were always super supportive of that, even if I knew that there were some doubts, but I needed to have that conversation with them at that one point where I told them, like, I don't want to do international business. I didn't want to let them down, but at the same time, they were like, we get it, and do what makes you happy. I'm like, oh, and I got this almost permission. But it was that support to like move forward, to do something and strive for something that I hadn't heard them support before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny because Alyssa talks about that same kind of thing, that support, and actually even the education piece of it, where it's like she actually, unlike necessarily me and Kris, went to school to learn. Yeah. She was like, I just want more information.
Right. I'm a knowledge buff. I love education. I love learning. I love sitting in the classroom and getting into a discussion. And I realize some people find that really odd, but
it's not, education is education. We know the definition, right? But the thing is, for some people, they go to get it so they can get the job or it's kind of to catapult something else. And some people are doing it to actually soak up information.
Yeah, and I think once that pressure of getting a degree to get a job was removed, I was actually able to enjoy learning in a way that I hadn't before. And so I sought out classes that intrigued me and topics and, that sort of thing where I was like, I know this isn't necessarily going to get me a job later, but I'm more enlightened because I've had the opportunity to have this type of class. I enjoyed it versus like, this is going to help me start a business or whatever it was.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, it's funny how I feel now. I'm 35 and it's almost like opposite from when I was 18 or around the time when you're deciding when you go to college. But if I had the mentality that I have now, then I would definitely be in college. Or I would have paid attention in high school. And, every time I'm watching something on Netflix about world history, I'm like, God damn it. I don't need to be watching this. I could just learn it when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
instead of just like saying my teacher sucks and I'm not going to pay attention.
That's part of the problem of being 18 and making the decision to go to college. You don't know. You're young. You want to do fun stuff. And it's hard to make the decision. No, I'm going to go work harder. And for reasons I'm not sure why yet. So it's hard for people.
but for me, like my scholastic experience, I always relate to high school where like that's when you start, I think, forming and deciding whether you're going to do more or less or a different thing with your life and all of that. And so history in my senior year was probably the most interesting history I would learn throughout my whole, scholastic experience. And I didn't even check out my history book at the beginning of the year. I just didn't pay attention. And again, I'm not advocating for that, but it's all this information that's actually really interesting and really worth knowing. And then I find myself at 32, 33, 34 going like, oh man,
that's some good
I need to know this.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to know this. It's worthwhile to know this and all that. So whether you're even trying to get a diploma out of it on a college level, it's still worth knowing. So, yeah.
Paige is dying in the corner.
Paige is dying. It's because she's drinking wine and not beer.
This is gonna be This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good radio.
Yeah. Really big tickle in my throat.
No, and I'm sorry, Kris, put you in the same boat as me because obviously you're doing great. You're the success level is good. Okay. But no, when it came to me, I graduated high school when I was 16. And so after that, it's like,
when
college 16. Yeah. So then the college experience, now I'm looking at college.
Wait, can I pause you real quick? I'm not trying to interview you, but so you graduated earlier than all of us, or?
Yeah. But I skipped like kindergarten or something, where everybody was eating crayons and I was writing my name. It's like one of those things. I just had a really good mom.
Were you on the verge of being 17?
Yeah. It was May. My birthday's in May. Okay. So then, at 17, now I'm looking at college, trying to figure out what's the career going to be, where am I headed? But really what happened was I went to community college at 17 and started up my own business at 17.
Oh, cool.
And really the business kind of took over, the focus.
Yeah.
Which was great for me. Because again, owning your first business at 17 years old, again, like, kind of what this podcast is all about, inspiring entrepreneurs to take the leap. I actually had the motivation from my parents and from my folks to say, you can do this, we can do this. And I'm traveling across the country, doing sales pitches and, to large corporations.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola and, big music, industry folks and everything. So it was good times. But, I was just saying all of that to say that, everybody's kind of got their own path.
Totally.
But, all of that can lead to something bigger. And that's why I want to get to the reveal right now. Okay. So because we have so much more to talk about on the other side of this, it's good to talk about our youthful times, but let's talk about, first of all, Paige, are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
The tickle is gone. I don't know what happened, but
Paige McWey-Acers, smart, influential, and most importantly on the side of us little people. The disadvantaged, the business owners of all sizes, and those looking to enjoy ourselves and support those businesses in a safe environment. We need people like Paige in any industry. It just so happens that beer got her. Paige McWey-Acers is the executive director of the San Diego Brewers Guild. Along with her, we also have the president of the Brewers Guild And being that San Diego is considered the capital of craft beer, that tells you just how important our guest is today. Kris is also the manager of Booze Bros and Owl Farms Breweries. Kris Anacleto. Did I say that right that time?
Nope, but we'll just go with it. Let's go.
Anacleto?
Anacleto. I wouldn't.
We are happy to have you on our show today. Thank you for being here, Kris. I'm sorry.
Of course.
That one, that's a natural one. Yeah, that one rolled right off my tongue, Anacleto. I'm sorry.
Everybody does it. I usually don't correct someone if they don't ask me if they said it right.
I'm sorry for being a poor listener, man.
All
okay,
good.
so first of all, tell us how hard it is to work with Paige.
Well, I'm drinking a beer while she's
right
drinking
here.
a wine, so it's a little difficult at the moment. But no, it's very easy. She is my boss when it comes to the guild stuff. So, but it's cool. We're definitely friends outside of the guild world, so I enjoy it.
North County Daily Star is the leading source for news and community information. There are 650,000 residents along the 78 corridor in 5 unique cities that share the region, North County, San Diego. We work and play in these cities, so we are all interested in what happens in our common region. There is no cost to subscribe, and it is continuously updated. So look for us on your mobile device or computer at ncdailystar.com.
The Vista Chamber of Commerce serves our local business community. We're a catalyst for business growth, providing connections to business prospects, networking opportunities, and relationships in a friendly, referral-based environment. We provide access to business resources, information, and training to support the growth and professional development for you and your employees. We're a convener of leaders and influencers, and we provide advocacy representation with elected officials, policymakers, and business leaders at every level of government. We have influence over issues that directly impact your business and facilitate collaborations of business and community leaders to identify and to solve challenges. Lastly, we're a champion for a stronger community, and we strive to inspire smart planning decisions for long-term community sustainability. We identify strategic partnerships to benefit the business retention and growth, workforce development, and charitable giving. And we represent a vibrant community by responding to visitor needs and providing assistance through our office. Check us out online at www.vistachamber.org.
This is a joke. I know Paige is great. So we were talking about the other podcast that you love. Mm-hmm. Wait, don't tell me. Yeah. It's an NPR podcast. We don't hate on other podcasts here, so we're all into it. And one of the things about it is that they do a lot of trivia.
Yeah.
So we got trivia questions.
We got trivia.
Let's do some trivia. We're gonna switch it up on the Same Business Different Day podcast. We actually have a trivia question. So, Alyssa,
They're not incredibly difficult. I mean, I just looked them up on the internet, so easily accessible answers, but no cheating.
Okay. I don't even have my phone.
So the first one, you should know. I hope you know, because it's your business. What are the 4 main ingredients in beer? In most beers, I should say.
Water, yeast.
There's 2.
Keep it going.
Oh, malt. Well, malt and barley are the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
There's 1 more.
Hops.
There it is. Good job.
I didn't know what you were asking. If you were just asking me, if you were
Oh, it's
asking
to both
of
of you, but he
okay.
clearly wanted you
sorry.
to answer, though.
Sorry, you were looking at her and she started, so I was just I was trying to feed the answers.
Points for Paige.
She's basically a head brewer.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
I don't drink beer, so I didn't even know malt and barley were the same thing.
You don't drink beer at all?
Yeah.
Or?
No, I don't.
He doesn't.
All right.
Yeah.
I should probably leave.
Maybe I once. I know, right? I polled some folks for questions, though, so I'm going to be able to. I'm going to try to talk intelligently during this podcast. The Brewers Guild really does a lot, though, when it comes to education, community, networking. How helpful is the Guild to entrepreneurs looking, to pull the kegs out of the closet and go into business for themselves?
Well, if you're asking us how helpful we are, I will tell you we're
Extremely.
the most helpful group that you get.
Yeah. But I actually read something though that you had. I don't know if it was a podcast or if it was something that you had, an interview that you did, or if it's something that you'd written. But you mentioned that when Brews Brothers were starting, that you were really that the guild was helpful to you.
Oh yeah. So, and I'll give this story specifically to us, but so Dave and Donnie are the actual owners of Booze Brothers that are actual brothers. And then there's myself, who I'm a co-owner, but I act as general manager. We definitely didn't know what we're doing as a whole. We understood the concept of beer. We understood getting a building, all of that, but we didn't know the nuances of what it meant to be a brewery in San Diego when there was almost 100 breweries at the time. So when we opened, it was a lot of just figuring our own stuff out. And Paige had reached out a few months in and asked us if we'd like to become a member. And honestly, we didn't know what that meant. But the amount of support we got from the community once we joined up, the amount of resources that we were given, the amount of connections that were given, just that kind of stuff made that first year to 2 years a whole lot easier. We didn't have to feel like we're in it alone. And I think that holds a lot of weight in general. Just not thinking that you're having a difficult time and you're the only person in this position.
Like to what extent, though? I mean, is this kind of like how the Chamber of Commerce might help a business that's just coming in, or?
Yeah, a Chamber of Commerce, but specific to your industry.
Sure.
So we can all understand the importance of a chamber, but a chamber is appealing to everything from retail to industrial to whatever it might be. But the craft beer community, there's only so many avenues. You're either a production brewery or a brew pub type deal. So all that information that's being fed to us is pretty specific, and learned a lot. It was like a crash course learning lesson the first year or so. I wouldn't have guessed that my position would become what it is within the guild and that I'd be sitting here advocating for it. But that was, 7 years ago, and there's a lot of growth with it. So it's been huge for us, and then it's cool being able to help spread that kind of information to newer breweries.
That's great.
Now, compliance is probably a major issue that comes up a lot, particularly with the alcohol-related industry.
It's a pretty big one.
So, even Paige, with your interest in law, how do you find yourself fighting for the compliance-related issues?
So we work really closely. We have a state association that does a lot of the lobbying on behalf of the entire industry up in Sacramento. And so it's really trying to make sure that we're in line with what they're working on in Sacramento and then relaying that to our membership. So being able to have good relationships with local regulatory agencies and then getting that information out to our members. So there is a little bit of a language there that, the ABC uses, or, reading through code may require some sort of interpretation. And so I kind of get my legal fix with that. But yeah, compliance is huge. And, we're a heavily regulated industry for, a good reason. And so it's just trying to figure out how to make sure that our breweries know what the right ways to go about their business in that type of highly regulated industry.
Do you find that many of the brewers or owners are kind of in the dark about it, or is it sort of they're coming to you saying, we know we have to do something, but we're not sure what it is, or are they pretty well known or versed on it?
I think the biggest challenge is interpretation, because, again, laws can be interpreted differently by different people. And so, someone may read the same thing as somebody else and have a completely different interpretation and be like, oh, well, I can do that. And you're like, no, but the people who are enforcing the law interpret it this way. And so it's not necessarily that they're in the dark, but it's more about making sure that our members understand the way that the enforcement agencies are interpreting the law, which doesn't necessarily mean that the way that they're interpreting the law makes sense, because that's been challenges that we've faced before. But at the same time, it's like, this is the current interpretation, and that's where we partner with that state association if there are changes to make things, easier or make more sense to our industry as a whole.
So, Alyssa was going to she does every episode make me not look very smart because she's so much smarter than me. But this one was going to be worse because, again, I don't drink beer. You can ask me why later. But actually, no, I don't have a good reason, to be honest with you. It's just one of those things where you kind of cut things out of your life just to show that you have power over it. So it's like I've never smoked a cigarette and I never drank a beer, but I drink a ton of wine and tequila. Yep. So, it's just one of those things. It's like I'm not doing it. Not doing it. But Alyssa is my resident expert.
I drink enough beer for both of us.
We're good. So considering my lack of beer knowledge, I did some polling questions from our listeners, though. Okay. And one of our listeners is an educator, Jay Gears, at Jay Gears, JG3ARZ. He says, we have programs in colleges and universities now. What would you say to those students that want to start a career in the industry? And what do you think about these programs, and did you help put them together?
Okay.
I think you would be a good person to answer this question.
Yeah, I can answer that question. Well, it always starts with what role are you looking for? We definitely bring on interns. We just made a decision today to hire on our intern who came from a college program locally. And this is the second intern that we've ever brought on. But if you're going the college route, craft beer is a weird world because it really comes down to how much work you're down to put in, how much just general knowledge you have. So you can go to school, don't get me wrong, and it's probably going to fast track you to certain knowledge. But you do have to understand that when you enter the craft beer world, that the workplace is not like a standard workplace. It's kind of like a big clubhouse, if you will, where everyone seemingly, and I shouldn't speak for any of the bigger breweries. There are much bigger breweries that are a lot more by the book, I guess, if you will. Structured, yeah. Okay. If you're looking at us, that's not the case because we're 7 years in, and as successful as we might be, we're still learning something every day.
Sure.
So when we have an intern who comes in and they're like, oh, I learned this in college, and we're like, oh, yeah, we should probably do that. But then they'll also learn, 10 other things from us that they never learned in college. So I feel like I'm almost losing sight of the question, but a college experience within the field of beer does make a lot of sense. And it will give you an advantage that a lot of other people won't have. But a lot of craft beer, in my opinion, is the right time at the right place. This intern that we officially hired on today, if they would have came to us at the beginning of the pandemic or, 4 months before the pandemic, she probably wouldn't have been hired. But we had a need, we had a growth plan, we had a bunch going on where it was the perfect timing. And so it's kind of a hard one to answer because I don't feel like that's an answer that's specific to anybody. I feel like
I get that.
Beating around the bush.
But. Yeah, no. I get the go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like the programs that we have in San Diego are very specific to different elements of the industry. So, like San Diego State, their program tends to focus on front of house. Or like theirs is like the business of beer, like front of house aspect. UCSD is very science based. So if someone's trying to become a brewer and learn the science behind brewing different styles, and that would be specific to them. And then Cal State San Marcos, they're like kind of a in between those two, where you're going to get your science classes and you're also going to get your business classes. So it really depends on you as an individual, what part of the industry is intriguing to you. Is it the business side? Is it the science, chemistry side? And then you can decide what type of programs. But I think the programs also allow for a lot of networking and contact because a lot of these professors and I don't know if they're actually professors, I guess instructors for these programs.
You can't do air quotes on a podcast page.
Well, everyone, I just...
Not everyone's
watching. These instructors are from the industry. And so if you make those types of connections, they could be, your entry into the industry. So,
Did you help put those programs together? Did you guys have any say on what they are teaching?
Not specifically. We've had board members that have been on, like, what are they called? The
Faculty board, whatever it may be.
Yeah, what are they called?
Advisory boards.
Advisory boards.
Yeah.
Okay.
That have helped, like, kind of curate some of the content.
Back to
and
my
that
original
sort of
question,
thing.
Kris. How difficult is it to work with? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and I do want to bring up the Maricosta program as well.
Please.
Oh, yeah.
That,
That's a newer one.
that's a newer one, and that's actually where our newest intern, Angela, came from. One of our, North County favorite breweries, Culver Brewing Company. They, Mike over there, the head brewer, he helped spearhead the Maricosta program. And each program at these different colleges are all doing something different. And so the Maricosta program is almost like a crash course, everything all in once, hands-on, get dirty type program. And their whole goal is to kind of get people like internships right away, get them in there. So we've hired interns who became employees from multiple of the programs. But this new program is pretty rad how it's gone about, because they're getting like that full-blown
They're
crash
the only program that actually has a system.
brewing system.
Yeah.
So all the other ones are almost like
What does that mean? Brewing system.
beer.
So
a
they
brew
get to
house.
actually brew
Right
a
there
beer.
on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get to.
And you get graded on the taste or what?
I don't
Not on the taste.
How many
but
people fell
yeah,
out that day?
Yeah, everyone at a certain point is still considered a home brewer. You can't
Yeah.
slide them on that. But they're going through the program and brewing beer on a more production level.
See.
And so we know right away that they have experience in the field, so to speak. So when we hired someone from San Marcos State, they had learned the theory of beer. They went through a ton of aspects of beer that they gained knowledge in another way than Maricosta did. And so we have like a very well-rounded team, in my opinion, with that kind of stuff. So it's cool. I love having the intern. I love having the college programs with their spot. It's not just free labor when they have to intern.
Sure.
We are pretty particular about when we do hire or bring someone on. If we don't actually need an intern, we're not going to bring one on because it's a waste of their own time. If they can't really learn from us, honestly, that makes us look bad because they might just go, Booze Brothers sucks. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
we don't like
yeah.
what they're doing. So we haven't used an intern every semester because we didn't need one every semester, but we do take on that responsibility when we can, and with the goal of hoping that this person works out for us. And so far it has. We're really happy with the college aspect of our brewery.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So with San Diego being the craft capital, we've got great beer here. How do we defend that title? I constantly argue with one of my coworkers. He's from Oregon. And I'll say, well, San Diego's the capital, the craft capital. And he's like, no, it's Portland. It's definitely Portland. And we go back and forth. We have so many different pieces of evidence, facts, data. What's the best? What's the, the actual capital? So I'm on board with San Diego. I say San Diego's the craft capital. We have the best. We have the most. But what do you say? What does it mean to be the craft capital? Why can San Diego claim it?
Who answers this? Well, I'm only a president for 2 more days, so I can say whatever.
Say what you want.
I personally don't care who's the capital of craft
Okay.
beer. I think San Diego has so much to offer, and I definitely think if we're not the best, we're in the top 3. But it is becoming, craft beer is so big now that there's no reason for in my opinion, for any city, any state, any country, whatever, however you want to put it, to say we are the best, we are the best, we are the best. I think that's kind of an antiquated mentality at this point when anything has real value.
You're not a sports fan, apparently.
Nope, don't give a shit about it. But you know what? This is almost like a heavier conversation, if you will. But like, I've personally, especially after doing what we've been doing with the brewery for 7 years, I've really lost the interest of being the best and more offering the best that we can. And so, Oregon might have more breweries or might have, well, they don't, but or Oregon might have better beer to some people, but like at a certain point, who cares? Because if you have great quality product coming out, like San Diego has definitely established itself as, we make great beer, we have amazing tap rooms, we have so much to offer that to really try to say we are the best, it's, who knows? What are you comparing yourself to, Belgium? Because some people might say Belgium has the best beer. And we don't need to be the best. We just need to do the best that we can offer. And San Diego has definitely proven that. Whether you want to look at it from personal experience or awards between the Great American Beer Festival, between the San Diego Brewers Festival, whatever it is that's out there.
I think innovation, though.
Is
a big element of San Diego beer.
I just don't think San Diego needs to prove itself anymore because we've done so much. We've seen so much leadership from San Diego. You've seen so many styles of beer that have come out of San Diego that like we are world renowned in its own right without saying that claim of we are the absolute best.
That's a good answer.
Go ahead, Paige, clean it up.
Yeah, and Paige can tell you why we're actually the best.
I think, like what you just said, in that, we have the innovation, we have medals, we have, like, I don't think, I think it's just a matter of what it is. Like, we do have a lot of breweries here. We have a lot of innovation. We have the community, we have the draw, we have the tourism.
Sure.
And so I think all of those elements put together kind of like go to creating that capital of craft beer, moniker. But I don't think that we have to work to claim it,
Yeah, I think on the competition level, we've probably proven ourselves. And now it just comes down to like personal preference, and everybody is seeking something different. I think the way craft beer has morphed, I mean, in the past 7 years that I've been a part of it, it is a drastically different world. And saying that we or anyone is the best in that 7 years has really changed from 7 years ago to now. And so I think we're in this cool time where everyone's looking for something that appeals to them. And I think San Diego appeals to a lot of different groups. So if we were to be the best on something, it's the fact that we appeal to so many different avenues, where we're not just like the West Coast IPA capital crap type deal. Right.
But it seems like there's no way to really kind of put a foothold on it, because unlike wine or grapes that are grown in a certain region or anything like that, other people can actually create something that's similar to yours or better or different, or is that true as it pertains to it? Okay,
absolutely. I mean, that's what's, for me, what I love about going to, my girlfriend and I have gone to Texas the past 2 Christmases, and experiencing that craft beer world out there is drastically different than San Diego. And it's rad that I look at what they're doing and I don't go, this isn't better, this isn't worse, it's just different. I love the variety that we have here in San Diego, but it's always cool experiencing something different. And so to me, it's almost short-sighted to go, we are the best, or this zone is the best, or this, country is the best, because you should be able to really appreciate something everywhere. It's just when someone does something good. And I think San Diego does beer great.
What's the growth been like, though? The industry overall, like the craft beer growth been like, at least even in just this region?
Oh, ever seen a bomb go off?
Really?
It's huge, man.
It's been exponential.
So our brewery in Vista, I think we were going to be brewery number 11 when we opened, and we were really second guessing what that meant, because we're like 11 brewery. And Vista is not a big city by any means. I think we're at 23 now in Vista.
Wow.
Okay.
And for a small city in San Diego as a whole, and the fact that there's double the amount since we opened, and we were questioning what we were doing when we opened because we thought there was too much. If you kind of extrapolate that to all of San Diego, We were just pushing, I think we're in the mid 90s. And we've seen some breweries close and new breweries open and second tasting rooms open since then. But what are we at number wise?
So we have 125 brewing company brands that represent close to 180 different locations throughout the county. So it's a
Yeah, so we were
it's the whole county. So out to Alpine, down to Chula Vista, up to Ocean.
They're in Julian too.
In Julian, yeah.
One of my favorites is up there.
Yeah.
Nickel.
Wow. So we were like number 97-ish of 180.
Wow.
7 years ago. So the fact that it's almost doubled in places you could go drink craft beer. And when we opened, this was at a time when if you wanted to buy craft beer at a liquor store or grocery store, you might be able to get 22-ounce bottles. Cans were not a thing when we opened. Realistically, they weren't a thing. The point of entry for anyone to buy a craft beer now is you can't even say it's doubled. You could probably say it's quadrupled, whatever it might be. Craft beer is cool now. So it's a whole different playing field from 7 years ago, 5 years ago, however you want to look at it.
Well, and with so many options, as you said, innovation is growing rapidly. The technology is changing so fast that it's easier for people to do things, and that's exciting for beer drinkers because we get to try more.
It is exciting. I mean, I think it's fair to say that if you like craft beer, this is the best craft beer has ever been.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Ignoring squeals and warning lights on your car is not a good way to lower the cost of owning it. And going without essential business insurance is not a good way to save money in your business. What we know for sure is doing either will cost you more than you will save in the short and the long run. With YourInsurancePlace.com, you can trust a specialist to help maintain your cars and avoid major expenses. Business owners should look to business insurance specialists when it comes to finding competitively priced, quality insurance coverage for their businesses. At YourInsurancePlace.com, we specialize in workers' compensation, general and professional liability, employment practices and cyber liability, property owner policies, and bonds for most types of businesses. YourInsurancePlace.com knows that we can help. If you're uncovered, need to lower the cost of your current insurance, or need better coverage, we can help. YourInsurancePlace.com has been helping businesses for close to 40 years. If you need a quote on your insurance, call us now at 858-569-8100 or find us at YourInsurancePlace.com. We are business insurance specialists ready to help.
That's cool. Ephraim asks, most people do it as a hobby. What showed you that you could do it as a business? And do you foresee many surviving the pandemic?
Oh.
I know the last question is a little
Yeah. So I'll speak for Dave and Donnie, the actual brothers of Booze Brothers. Both of them, their story is pretty cool. Donnie, the younger brother, brewed beer for their sister's wedding, so they didn't have to buy beer. And he's a science nerd, so he was super into figuring out on his own. Brewed beer, loved it. Dave, who's a little bit more of the partier of the two, loved having endless amount of beer in the garage. And he's the real driving factor of our brewery. He's the one who always wants to see things grow, become better, establish better practices. He's the real growth of our company. So at that time, he said, let's keep it going. I want more beer in our garage.
Yeah.
He really pushed Donnie to do more, and they thrived with it. As a home brewing duo, they had a pretty cool setup, and they were tired of being pizza delivery men and pool cleaners.
Okay.
And they said, let's do our own thing. And a lot of it was going into things really blind, but they decided to just run with it. And we've been friends for a long time. So once they actually got the lease, they were getting things going. I was like, oh, I'll help out here and there, because my background is actually video and graphic design.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of freelance work, and I think it was just the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
The three of us were all in a good spot where they were the real driving factor of the brewery, but I was able to help out with a little bit more of the management. So we just kind of made it work. And being young and not having a lot of expenses going on, we were able to just dump whatever money there was into it and say we don't really need a paycheck as long as we can hang out and drink beer with our friends at our own brewery. Fast forward a couple of years, when we started really establishing ourselves and doing things right, we were looking at things in a more factual way of how do we keep growing, how do we make this work, and then the pandemic hits, and it hit us like a jackhammer to the face.
Well, you opened another tasting room in January, didn't you?
We did, yeah. We opened up our second tasting room in January in
just
Oceanside.
Before.
Yeah, just before. So the nice part about that was we hadn't staffed up. We weren't overly invested in it in a way where we were expecting higher. So thankfully, pandemic sales have kind of mirrored what early January sales were when people didn't really know about us. So it pays for itself type deal.
Okay.
We were about to open up our third location, which is legitimately across the street from where we're recording right now.
Okay.
That was supposed to open up a month after, but a big part of our business has actually been private events and weddings, which sounds a little odd for a brewery, but our building is large enough at our home base where we opened up a private event space, and we started doing weddings about 5 years ago. And we thought originally when we were opening up it was going to be for birthday parties and small weddings, and it turned into a good third of our business. Wow. So we're in a position that's a little bit different than I think a lot of breweries, where we're not just canning product, we're not just a tasting room, we're not just distributing. We also have this additional aspect, and that threw us for a loop big time because we had a whole new building that we're building off on that. So it was going to be just a private event space. So financially that was a blow. Thankfully we have a landlord who is really cool and worked with us because we were never even able to open up. But
really,
yeah,
that's a very cool landlord.
He's a very cool landlord, and
for now,
I think it's hard. No, he's a rad dude. He actually approached us about trying to take over this building about 4 years ago, before we ever opened our original private event space, and we were just like, we have no need for this. And then 4 years down the line, we said, oh, actually, we'd love this spot. Yeah. And I wish we would have done that 4 years ago. But he's worked with us because we never had the option to open it. We were closed down a month before we originally were intending. So that was something that was going to be really cool. But to answer his question, when he was saying how many businesses are going to survive through this, we have an industry of people who have seemed to be able to make things work on the fly for quite some time. So we have adapted a lot. If you look at the craft beer community 10 years ago, up until right before the pandemic, it's a world of a difference. Where craft beer was distribution only and then formed into tasting rooms and then turned into 22-ounce bottles and growler sales and then cans. Like, we've had to adapt on the fly almost every single year. Right. It's been changing so much, and the fact that you keep seeing more and more breweries shows that it is something that is going to stick around. We're not going to go anywhere. You're going to see some changes, and unfortunately, you probably will see some breweries. Some fail, yeah. Some fail.
It's a malleable industry.
Yeah, and that's any industry, really, if you think about it. But a big part of it, I think, is how much passion and time does someone have to put into it. So you might see some breweries go, you know what, I retired from my old job and I want to open up a brewery, and I think it's going to be an easy concept. And then they learn that it's not as easy as you think. Mm-hmm. It's always fun to give your friend a beer, but 4 years down the line, it might not be fun to give your friend a beer for free. You go, I just need to make some money at this point. Right. Yeah. So if the right people are running the right breweries, I think you'll see a lot of people lasting. And we're 10 months into this, and I think a lot of us were thinking like, this is going to be a 3, 4, 5 month issue. The fact that we've had so little closures in San Diego is pretty impressive, in my opinion.
I was going to say, and we've had openings.
We've had a handful of openings. A lot of those people were already planning on opening, but they didn't just shutter the doors. Yeah, they didn't stop. So I can't speak, for other industries, but I feel like we're doing a pretty solid job of keeping craft beer alive and keeping our industry alive through all of this. And the shit sucks. I mean, it sucks for everybody. No one disagrees with that,
I was gonna say another element is going back to that capital of craft, mentality. I think the community feels that way, and so they don't want to see their neighborhood breweries close. Right. Those are their friends and their neighbors, and so they're going I don't want to say out of their way, but it's kind of like we need to make sure that these businesses and these people survive because they're important to us and they're important to our community. And so I think that's another element that comes into play with everything going on is just the community support.
Well, we have, I think the majority of breweries in San Diego have that mom and pop feel. And throughout this whole pandemic, I think you've seen a real push for people going, if I'm going to spend money, I need to spend my money in the right way. Yeah. And so whether you're going to the local Mamas and Papa's lasagna spot or Booze Brothers for craft beer, you want to see that local establishment survive. And the first 3 months when everything was a hard shutdown and we could only sell beer to go, I was very surprised at how much beer we sold. It's not that our numbers were better by any means, right? But I thought we were going to be in a way bigger shitstorm than we were. And the amount of people who came out and people who were buying a case of beer opposed to a 4-pack, and they were just like, well, I have to drink beer somewhere and I want to buy it from who I want to make sure survives. That was actually, honestly, that was one of the most gratifying positions I've been in the past 7 years of seeing the way people want to support us as a whole.
You like to see it.
Yeah, and we did a whole push for like, hey, we're going to release this beer. The profits go to our staff. Honestly, we've never sold so much beer. Wow. And it was cool because you see that connection that people have with what you're doing. And it's like when we're all positioned in the shittiest of times and thinking, are we going to go out of business? You have your like hyper local community going, we're going to support you more than ever. Yeah. And that's huge. Yeah. I mean, you can't really, that holds its weight in gold and keeps you wanting to do what you're doing rather than just saying, what, screw it. Yeah. Like, let's just file bankruptcy and be done.
Let's do another listener question. Nelson asks, with San Diego being such a competitive beer market, how do you sell the idea of a new brewery to investors and then to the public?
Oh. I don't, do you want to answer that or should I attempt to?
You can try.
Don't. No, investor. It's very hard. I mean, our brewery thankfully has been very grassroots and we've never done a lot of investor stuff. I don't want to speak for any investor brewery because I don't know how that works. But if you want to make promises to someone, I don't know if now is the best time.
I heard that. You can't promise returns.
You can't promise returns. And I think that actually probably kicked in well before the pandemic. I think
because of the competition?
Yeah, because of the expansive growth. And I mean, we can use somebody like St. Archer as a really good example, and I'm not talking down on them at all, but they were a brewery who started with investor money with the intention to sell, and they wanted to go big fast. And they did a very good job at what they were intending to do, in my opinion. But if somebody is looking to replicate that, I think 2021 is probably a little late in the game for that, unless you have something truly original and truly unique that you cannot have to offer. Again, I don't want to speak for any investor type brewery because that's just not a route that we've gone down. And then, Paige is more of a voice of everybody. Yeah. So it's very, you just have to be, in my opinion, overly confident in what you're doing, where you're willing to put everything into it. And hopefully you find somebody who's going to put money into it. And you also have the ideal product that's going to get as big as you would like it to be. But if you ask me personally, outside of the guild, you should probably pump the brakes. Just at this moment, if you're trying to go big with investors.
Cool.
We're in a very different spot with craft beer, and giving an answer during 2020 is a nightmare.
It's almost over. A couple more days.
It's almost over.
Just a couple. At Eddie Navarro, it depends on when we release this.
2020
Let's release this in next June, and then it'll be almost over. At Eddie Navarro asks, how soon after the green light will beer festivals be happening again?
Please tell me soon.
Are we going to do them right away, or are we going to kind of pause after the green light? I know, Paige, you're involved with the events and all that. I mean, to put you on the spot.
Beer festivals are a huge source of revenue for the Guild as a nonprofit. So we've really struggled this year because we haven't had the ability to have any events or any fundraisers. And so, to bring them back after a green light would be great. But I think that we have to be sensitive to how the consumer feels about being in a space like that, bringing 2,500 to 3,000 people together all at once. There's going to be people who are comfortable with it, but there could be a large portion of people who aren't comfortable with it.
Or how do you change the space?
And how do you change it? It's starting from square one.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we will see them, the next day or the next month or something. I don't think we'll see them rapidly return, because I think there needs to be a lot of planning involved in making sure that there isn't a lot of loss for the person who's putting it on. As a nonprofit organization, we can't afford for a beer festival to lose any money, because the whole intention of a beer festival is to raise money for the nonprofit and to bring everyone together. So we would need to ensure that those two things are actually going to happen before we try to plan anything.
Yeah.
Before we go back to Eddie Navarro, another question from Eddie Navarro. I know you know who he is. Let's do another trivia.
A little more trivia. We got more for you.
It's Chris's turn?
Sure.
It's for both of you. If either of you know it.
Well, she answered last one. I'll answer this one.
Okay, well, it's a
Nobody
history.
likes being put in.
It's a history question.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It's perfect for you, though. You said you were liking history. So here we go.
I might have shot myself in the foot.
Put you on the spot. What culture is first documented as having brewed beer?
Oh.
Egypt.
It is, right?
Yeah, it's Egypt. Yeah,
She
you got it. So, I
jumped right in it. She was way more confident than I was.
That was your question, but she got the point.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What I read was that the ancient Egyptians were documented on papyrus scrolls around 5000 BC, and they used things like dates, pomegranates, and other indigenous herbs. So their beer was vastly different from what we have now, but it was still a fermentation process and something like beer.
Yeah.
You should make an Egyptian beer.
We're not going to make it.
Pomegranate.
It's kind of funny.
Beer.
Yeah. Oh, I'll try it. Actually, we have a lager coming out on Friday with pomegranates in it.
That's close.
So basically, we have an Egyptian beer coming out on Friday. If you're listening to this, it came out 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how these questions come about, because when I did a podcast about a year ago where it was around the time when I was becoming president, and one of our staff members was like, I'm surprised you're the president and not Donnie or Maury. Oh. And I had to kind of explain to them where Donnie and Maury are. Donnie's one of the brothers in charge of all the beer. Maury is our head brewer. It's kind of taken us to the next level of what we're doing. And I had to explain to the staff member, like, the president of the San Diego Brewers Guild doesn't actually mean you know everything about beer and you know how to brew beer and you know the history of Egyptian beer. It's more of a spokesperson for the business of beer throughout San Diego as a whole. So technically, if you were looking for the president of Brewers, yes, Donnie or Maury would be the head of it. And so sometimes I get put in these positions where I'm like, I don't actually know.
We don't hold it against you, Kris.
Totally. I know you guys are all drinking
Paige
wine. You don't care.
Paige beat you to it, and you just have to accept defeat.
Paige definitely knows a lot about beer that I don't. And just so all
we know she went to San Diego State.
She went to San Diego State. I brought 2 4-packs of beer, and there's only one missing, and the other 3 people on the show are drinking wine.
Who's next? Crack that open. Yeah. At Eddie Navarro asks, what do you think about seltzers taking over the industry?
Ooh, good question.
Paige, give that PC answer.
I think it goes back to that innovation aspect, like people saw the market changing. They started making a product that the consumer wanted to buy. And even within the seltzer market, you're seeing the breweries create new recipes and different ways to make seltzer and market it differently and all of that. So it goes back to innovation and keeping their business alive. So, I mean, I know that there are people who don't support seltzer as being a part of the craft beer world, and that they would prefer that people just drink beer, which is fine. But that's also, there's a lot of different types of consumers out there.
Sure.
And people want different types of products. And so I don't see there being a large issue in trying to create different types of products to diversify your consumer base. It's the same sort of thing with hard kombucha and, with seltzer and beer, and the type of license that you need in order to manufacture those beverages are all the same. So if you can manufacture those and diversify your lineup and bring more people in your door and open your business up to more people, I think that can be a really positive thing. Kris, I think, has a different perspective.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I get it. I get that this is a product that people are enamored with, and if you're in college, you probably want to drink a seltzer because you can drink 20 of them opposed to 4 IPAs. But I don't have a problem with something like seltzer. What I do have issue with is when something starts doing well, everybody doing the same thing. I don't
followers.
Followers or we'll just say it like that. I mean, and I'm not saying we're above that by any means. At one point, I remember when a lot of breweries were opening, they're like, I'm not going to do IPAs because IPAs are cool. And I mean,
you have to have an IPA.
You can't be in San Diego and not have an IPA, at least a West Coast IPA at this point. And now we're
hazy
in the form of hazy IPA. It's becoming more and more prevalent. But it's upsetting to me when one brewery or 10 breweries, or at this point you can even say 30 breweries, does something that's doing well, and then the following 70, 80, 100 breweries go, well, I need to do it too. If anybody's really trying to compete with Truly or White Claw, it seems a little silly to me, but I get why they're doing it. And you're just trying to make sure that you're not on the outskirts of what's going on. I just wish more people had that thought process of, I'm going to do something and I'm going to do it my way. And if I can't do something unique, I want to figure something else out. So I have no problem with seltzer.
But if the consumer's demand is changing for a different type of product, why would you not?
I mean, I think that kind of also
create the new product. Yeah. I'm not. This sounds very arrogant on my behalf.
No, it kind of goes back to the beginning of this conversation, which is that's the artist in him, right? He's the creator, and he's not going to draw the same thing somebody else drew.
Yeah,
he's going to put together a completely different type of portrait or some different type of art or a different design. And that's going to be the way that he approaches things throughout life. So that has still followed you, regardless of what the business is or what the industry is. That's still following you. And don't let me put words in your mouth, but
no, that was well put. And to use that as an example, so as you mentioned earlier, we have 2 brands. It's Booze Brothers Brewing Company and Owl Farm Unique Fermentations. And so Owl Farm is a very fruit forward, unique, weird, sour hoopla of beer. It's very different than what you're used to from a brewery. And the reason why we launched that was there's a local brewery, Belching Beaver. We were talking about that earlier. We have a lot of friends over there, and they came out with something like the peanut butter milk stout. And that is a relatively unique beer for the industry, and that took off like no other for them. Yes, there are other peanut butter milk stouts, but they did really well with it. And we kind of looked at our business a couple years in and said, what can we do to appeal to that market without just brewing a peanut butter milk stout? We said we need to do something different. We need to do something that appeals to somebody who isn't looking for that bitter West Coast IPA. And so over time, we developed Owl Farm. And like right now, Paige is drinking our cranberry kettle sour.
It's tasty.
We come out with stuff like watermelon tahini sours, mango tahini sours. We just came out with a huckleberry. And a lot of it is sour forward and fruit forward. But this was something to appeal to people who weren't like that super heavy hop forward or brown ale or stout driven crowd. And we said, how do we appeal to people who don't just want, air quotes, craft beer? And that's somebody who might really like seltzers. And so somebody who might really like a seltzer, a hard seltzer, might really like our cranberry kettle sour because it's light, it's dry, it's approachable, and you can apparently just slam them back. And that's what some of these people want. But that was our version of doing something that was appealing to people.
Yeah.
So if we have, 120 or so breweries in San Diego, if 120 breweries made a grapefruit hard seltzer, you would say, I don't really give a shit about grapefruit hard seltzer anymore because I can have it anywhere I go. Yeah. But what can you do that's different? Well, at a certain point, hard seltzer is hard seltzer and it's a different fruit. So what are you doing that makes it different? So for me, it's just finding a way to appeal to that market in a different way.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect at it. I'm not slighting anybody who does the seltzer game. Honestly, we'll probably eventually do one, at least on draft, because the tasting room is a lot different than canned product. And that's where a lot of things become different in conversation, where if every single brewery had a hard seltzer on tap at their tasting room, this wouldn't be a conversation. But if every single brewery had a hard seltzer in a can, it's like, how many hard seltzers are they going to sell? Like, who's going to be the cheapest at the end? Who's going to be the cheapest mango seltzer?
Yeah.
It's always going to be White Claw.
Okay.
It's not, they're going to have their 12-ounce can. Not everyone needs a 16-ounce mango seltzer for $47.
Jeez.
Well, and I think that's what you're seeing like when the tap rooms were open, there would be one handle that was a seltzer because people were seeing loss of business because people would walk in and be like, I have a gluten-free person or whatever. This person only drinks seltzer. Do you have one? They're like, no. Oh, we'll go to the next brewery because they might or whatever. Right. And so I think that's why you started seeing a lot more too, just so that people could keep customers in the door.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're 7 years in and we still get people asking for Jack and Cokes or red wine. And
your tasting room is so...
We're a tasting room and people... And I get it.
He's asking for red wine.
People come in and they say, hey,
red wine and pizza, I'll be fine.
I mean, the Jack and Coke one is always... And like, that's a very specific reference. We've gotten that cocktail mix more than anything. Like,
interesting.
I'll take a Jack and Coke. We're like, it's 3:30 on a Sunday and you're in a business park. I'm surprised you're here because at this point, craft beer is enough of a force where most people understand what's going on in San Diego. Like, if you go to a business park to a brewery,
not a bar.
You're probably going there and maybe getting a hoagie from the food truck.
Yeah.
If you're going into a downtown area, get whatever you want. But so when it's just that weird dynamic, and we have to deal with it. And like, we want to appeal to everyone. We don't want people leaving. So I get why people are jumping onto the seltzer train. Like, I mean, if I was at the beach, I could drink one, no problem. If it's 9:30 on a Friday night, I don't really want to drink a $7 seltzer at a tasting room. I want to drink a quality craft beer.
We get the reverse at the winery. People come in asking for beer. And we say, you're in San Diego wine country. and so like, I can tell you about all these good breweries that you should have gone to, but I have great wine.
Drove past
Yeah, exactly. So,
That's awesome.
but we did the same thing. We found a way. We have sparkling wine now for someone who probably won't like it.
Some bubbles.
Some bubbles.
Speaking of the Jack and Coke, though, there was a question from another.
He says it's from someone else. It seems like you wrote it.
I didn't write it. Says, I know it does.
At For Me Tigger asks, can you make a beer that tastes like tequila and not give you a beer gut?
Yes.
I'm not a brewer, so.
Well, I guess it depends.
It is my tequila buddy, though.
I guess it depends what you're looking for, but midway through this pandemic, we came out with a Paloma sour beer, which is a tequila-inspired beer, and we're coming out with it in February. So it's
there you go.
It does not.
Your way.
And I have to give this disclaimer: it does not specifically taste like tequila, but if you enjoy Palomas, which is a tequila-inspired cocktail, you'll probably love our beer, and you should buy a lot of it.
Well, there you go. At For Me Tigger.
Thank you. Thank
Zeke.
you.
Yeah.
We spoke earlier about Paige. Apparently the voice of everybody, as we heard today. I know how hard you're working daily. How important is it for you guys to stay in touch with what's going on a daily basis? I know Eddie over at Belch and Beaver was telling me that he's getting your emails all the time. I mean, there's so many emails coming in. But go ahead and tell me what's that's like.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really important to keep that communication line of communication open, because there's a lot of things that are changing regularly. That's what we need. We don't want our members trying to figure out what they can and cannot do right now. That's what our job is. And so we figure out what's happening, how their business is going to be influenced, or what opportunities are available to them to keep their business open during this pandemic, and get that out to them so that they're not spinning their wheels and trying to figure out like what resources to look at and that type of thing. So communication during this year has been extremely important, especially because we haven't been able to get anybody together. That's another element of what our association does regularly in a normal year, is that we have member meetings where we're bringing all of as many breweries as we can together in one place every 4 months, so that people can understand who's their neighbor, or who the brewery in Chula Vista is and who the brewery in Oceanside is, like getting the whole San Diego beer community together. And since we haven't been able to do that, we've definitely had to figure out new ways in getting that type of information that they would have received at those types of meetings that we haven't been able to have this year.
Yeah. How's it look like for the industry, though, going forward? What's the outlook? And that's a hard question. It's a hard question for everybody in the country, right? What does any industry look like going forward? But regardless, let's say it's June. Let's say whenever it is.
I think Kris earlier saying how resilient the entrepreneurs are in the industry. I think that in creative, I think that people will really continue to pivot as much as possible. It's really, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the the outlook of the industry looks like specifically, but I know that we have a lot of good people, hardworking people that want to keep their businesses alive, and passion, that they will do anything that they can to keep that dream going for them. And so my job is to try to help them in achieving those goals.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Take your job seriously.
Yeah.
What do you think about the industry going forward, Kris? I know that. That's exactly what Paige said.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
Loaded question, but I've probably talked to more fellow breweries in the past year than I have in the past 7 years. Just because everyone's, whether it's a text, email, the rare in-person communication, but everyone kind of has that same question of like, where's your head at? What are you thinking? Where do you see things going? And thankfully, I think most people are like, we can make it work and we're in this crappy spot, but we're just holding out for the better days ahead. And I mean, that conversation was 7 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, and the fact that the majority of us, the strong majority of us are still here and still saying those same things. I mean, we're more tired than ever. And there's a lot of furloughing or like going of staff, which is a huge problem, but like the base of the breweries are still there. And who knows what it'll look like if this lasts another 6 months, whatever it might be. But I'm still, I guess, slightly positive.
Yeah.
I know that sounds so like, I'm not sure. and I'm not, and I don't think anybody really knows the answer.
You can't be positive.
But I have more positive thoughts about people making it through than negative. And, and you have to, in the sense that you really want to, but I think I'm by nature, unfortunately, a very pessimistic person.
Okay.
And it's not the best quality of me. But even with that mindset, most of the people who I still talk to, it's looking like they can ride out the storm. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean there's not casualties along the way.
Sure.
It's super unfortunate. And this is kind of just that standard asking anyone, how's it going? Asking anyone, how's it going during a 9-month pandemic is almost just like, do you really want to ask something?
Yeah, it's a rhetorical question.
How's it going? You're just used to saying that way, and you're used to somebody saying like, it's cool. But right now it's like, no, it's not cool.
Yeah.
But I think the beer industry, thankfully, has some more weight on its side to sticking around.
Good.
Than a lot of other. I mean, I really feel for like the restaurant industry,
the
like
hospitality industry.
The hospitality industry as a whole, it's just like where they have even slimmer margins for their business. It's pretty wild. So it's weird looking at it from that perspective and going, maybe we're actually a little bit lucky compared to others, because we have our tasting room, we can do distribution, we can still sell beer to go, and it's like a pretty quick turnaround where, some people who are used to getting their food like on the spot and then they have to wait an extra 10 minutes, they might go, I don't want to go to that restaurant anymore. It's like, what? We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Or they can't have their experience.
They can't have their experience,
a lot of the time going to a restaurant
all of that,
is the experience, and that's gone.
You end up driving 20 minutes home and your hamburger is not as your bun's a little bit soggier, and somebody goes, I don't want to get it anymore. Like beer is going to last for a while. Again, not like wine. But you can bring that beer home, or you can bring it up to your cabin when you go out to Mammoth or whatever you're doing, and beer lasts. So I think we're in a better position than a lot of people. So I don't see the beer community being overly rocked, but there's still going to be a lot of makeup time. Right, so I feel like every answer I give is like 29 minutes long.
No, we appreciate your insight. We appreciate you being here. And, we want to, on that note, really, we want to wish a good 2021 to everybody. This, again, is, the New Year's for us. But we know that next year is going to be different. How much different and in what way, we don't know exactly yet. But I'll take on Kris's what he really meant and be positive.
Yep.
And really, wish everybody the best for the next year. We know that, we all expect to be here, and that's what we really need to know. I really want everybody to, look forward to something good. Thank you for everybody who sent in questions, and let's get some contact info from us.
All right. So we are looking at the San Diego Brewers Guild. So their website is www.sdbeer.com, and you can find them on Instagram and Twitter at SDBrewers. Kris is with Brews Brothers Brewery. They have www.brewsbros.com. Did I say brews? It's booze. BOOZE bros.com. Sorry.
It's all good. Anacleto.
Yeah. So got me all messed up.
Yep.
And you're also with Owl Farm Beer. So that's www.owlfarmbeer.com. Both on Instagram at Booze Bros, Booze, and at Owl Farm Beer. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
All right. Did it.
Thank you for tuning in to Same Business, Different Day podcast. A special thanks to StarFox Media on video production and James Russell on music production. Please like and subscribe the Same Business, Different Day podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a nice review. Tune in next week for an exciting all-new episode.